Welcome back to Light Talk, where the guests can be themselves and their own unique experiences of the metaphysical world. If you have your own unique stories and would love to share them, email me at lighttalk423@gmail.com. And while you're at it, click on that like, share, and subscribe button. All right, let's get started. Let's welcome our guest, and we'll let him tell us a little about himself, and then he'll start up on his stories. Go for it.
Hi, my name is Dan Liss, and I am a Reiki master, a tarot master. I've been doing dream interpretations, past life regressions. I do house blessings. I do tarot readings, numerology, runes, a whole variety of things. And I like offering a variety of things rather than just one thing. So this way I can help people in different ways. And sometimes a person needs more than one thing. Sometimes a person may come in for a reading, but we're recognizing some of the things they're dealing with in a reading, maybe then Reiki would help them feel better because maybe their energy's all scrambled and that's why they're asking for a reading. And maybe at the same time they could use some of that Reiki to help calm their mind and calm their spirits. And so sometimes, I do more than one thing in a session with a person. But I think a lot of times too, that people are, wondering, what kind of things they need or want. And I always advise them that, it's up to what are you trying to achieve? What would you like to do here? What's on your mind? So then we can address that. And so sometimes when they're posing a question or they have an idea, that, sometimes whatever that question or idea or that concern is would be what would prompt us to take a direction in what kind of a method we use. I think a lot of times too, there are things that a person only needs once in a while, such as a reading, like if there's especially like a turning point in your life. So like sometimes people are thinking about changing jobs or changing relationships or making a move, something like that. That would be a time frequently on their birthday too, a very common one.
Wow.
People come in for a birthday reading. So, there's all kind of those are what I would call occasional needs. Whereas if a person is, really feeling a need to de-stress, then maybe a monthly Reiki session would be helpful to that person. Sometimes just like we get regular massages because, it helps to keep our body relaxed and, flowing and working well. And we get that regularly just so we don't end up in a ball of knots. Well, Reiki can help do that too, and especially if you have a lot of stress in your life. The Reiki I've also seen help a lot of people in terms of, not just feeling better when they leave, but actually, significantly reporting that like some ache or pain they had when they came in is now feeling a lot better. And I think that, sometimes too, um, things get taken care of that you weren't asking for. Because when you're turning on that flow of energy, I've had people say things like, well, when I came in, my back was hurting, but now it doesn't. And I never touched the back and she never brought it up. So the energy is going where it needs to go to do what it needs to do. And I think a lot of times too, when we look at our own processes, of course, a lot of times things that are bothersome to us, like indigestion or headaches and nervousness, they kind of come from a person with a lot of chatter going on in their mind, and their mind is not at peace and their body's not at peace. So a lot of times working together with these things to bring about peace in a person helps to, solve some of the things that they're suffering from. So, and a lot of times too, messages come through for people when I'm working on them, not 100% of the time, but sometimes I'm going to say. And it's just like I always affirm that I'm doing my work with the help of my spirit guides. And that's why sometimes they give me things to say that I didn't know I was going to say. And that's why sometimes when I was new at this, I would kind of second guess myself. So maybe I had a feeling that I should say something to this person. And then I say to myself, well, I don't know why I should say this to this person. So I'd censor myself. But then within moments, the other person would say something to confirm that, in fact, that was a clear message for that person. And so that's what really taught me to pay attention to those, ideas or words coming through, because there's always a feeling that comes with it. And that feeling of like, you should tell her this. Here's a message for this person. And so you open up and deliver it, without censoring yourself. That's a key. And I think it's one of those things that people have to learn when they're learning to read, to not censor yourself and let it come through, because something that may look like nonsense to us may make perfect sense to the other person.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Because, see, I'm also affirming that if I'm going to do like a past life reading for somebody, that spirit will let us take a look at some things that will be useful for this person to see at this time. So I'm always affirming that at the beginning of a reading, because of course every reading is going to be different, but it's also, what if you had 100 past lives? We're not going to get to all of them.
No.
So which ones would be worth looking at right now? And so time and time again, spirit brings up, just these perfect coincidences for people, like one woman brought her daughter, like 14-year-old daughter. And so they asked me to do past life reading, and I immediately got a vision of her playing piano, and that she had been a pianist in a previous life. And immediately the mother and daughter just had their jaw drop and said, Mom said that, well, she was bugging me to get her a piano, and now she wants to take lessons, and she's been playing. And then, like a week after that, she said, she's been playing even more since you did that reading for her.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So you see, sometimes too,
Yeah.
when you're, what a session like that can do is maybe confirm a path you're already on, rather than reveal something new. I mean, it can do both. But just think, sometimes when you think about the things that we're good at in this lifetime, or the things we really hate, are things that we had some experience with before. And that's why sometimes you can take a person who can just pick up, a pencil and make art, and never had classes.
Yeah, that was my brother actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's always been a real good artist, and he actually went to school and had some training in it. So he's fantastic.
Well, a person may choose to get training after that too, to kind of help move them forward. But I think there's always cases popping up like that, where somebody shows a skill at something that they never were trained in, and they're just all of a sudden good at this.
Yeah, I've been seeing these videos online that with this like a year-old out and just playing the piano, just like craziness.
I think I saw that too. It's kind of crazy somebody that young could play a
That
piano.
young,
But
yeah.
I mean, certainly, how else would that person learn it?
Exactly. And then how long those little teeny little stub of fingers are reaching them, but he was getting them. He was right on it.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, I think that's really cool.
So there's a lot of those things where spirit gives us a look at things, but we don't always know how to look. So, example, we all dream at night, because you see, your body needs a nap from what you've been doing all day, but your spirit don't need a nap. So the spirit's wandering the universe, gathering information for you while your body is taking a nap. And so we do always have dreams. But a lot of people say, well, I don't. Well, the only reason some people don't is if you're in the habit of not trying to remember, then you don't. But it's kind of like priming the pump. If you start getting out notebook and pen and jot down whatever you can remember as soon as you wake up, a little at a time, then the flow accelerates. Because if you get a little bit, maybe you just get a little bit at first, like an image or a word, or a feeling or a thought, and you're jotting that down. But the more you try and do it, the more habit you make of it, then the more you're able to remember. And spirit does give a look ahead, and they call it precognition. So that, in other words, We dream about something, then a little while later it happens in real life. And many people have reported that back to me too, that they've had dreams like that, where they dreamed about a person or an event, and then here it was a little while later happening.
Oh,
So, it's just a matter of sometimes being interactive on our own part, like taking the initiative to, have a notebook and pen, or to, make a little time for meditation every day, or, do some dream work, or, whatever you like. I mean, whatever kind of thing fits your fantasy there. These are tools that you can use that can be fun to use.
yeah. Yeah, and they are fun. I've dabbled in a lot of different areas, and it's just so much fun when you do get something that comes through
Hmm.
with that. It is a lot of fun.
Oh, it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
It is. Well, a simple exercise I've given a lot of people who want to learn about how to use your tarot if you don't have classes, or, maybe you don't have the patience for reading a book or whatever. I said, just try this. Just pull one card in the morning when you get up and write down whatever you think that could mean
Hmm.
and whatever that might represent to you. And then you leave that notebook alone, and you leave that card alone, and you come back in the evening at the end of your day and take a look at, did anything you wrote this morning make sense? Or how did whatever you wrote this morning have any bearing
Yeah.
on what happened today? And so little by little, you're teaching yourself how to work with your cards, but you're also using the cards perhaps as a meditation device, or, a thought for the day or something like that. But simultaneously, you're teaching yourself to work with it, because in most cases, you can come up with something by looking at the picture that is what the artist represented in the picture. But of course, sometimes we differ,
Right.
and it's okay to differ and have other
Hmm.
opinions. But then you can go back after and look in the book that the author wrote and say, what did they think they meant by making this card this way? Because of course, when we look at anybody's art, you know what I mean? They may have intended something when they painted the picture, but that doesn't control what we think when we see the picture, or
Right.
what we feel. And that's why when you go to like an art museum or an art gallery, and some pieces you like, some pieces you don't. So
Yeah.
the artist had something in mind, but I don't know if that's what we got.
Right. Right. Because everybody's in a different state of mind, and wherever the artist was versus where you are at that time. Yeah,
Exactly.
makes total sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was I just recently got some oracle cards from Kim Nichols,
Okay.
and they're beautiful cards, and I'm kind of learning them. And I know when I use them and I get the same card, they have different meanings every time I
Hmm.
pull it. I mean, it's like I see something completely different, but it's
Well, it's,
okay.
it is.
Yeah.
Well, think about any deck of cards. For example, if you had a, a card on it that has a couple, like
Hmm.
two of cups, let's say. Well, if the person who's asking the question, the person who wants the reading, is concerned about a relationship, like a personal love life, then that card means one thing. But suppose the person asking for the reading is thinking about starting a new business, it might be about a business partner.
Hmm.
So I mean,
Yep.
the same card can take on different meanings depending on what question is being asked.
Right. Right.
Now, same thing for the Empress card, usually shows like a pregnant woman. Well, for a young woman who wants to start a family and wants to have babies, then pulling a card like that would be a good omen for, a healthy and happy childbirth. But for a person who might be not interested in making babies, but rather that symbolically in her life, maybe that card represents her new business or her new home that she's
Yes.
nurturing into existence. And so at different phases of your life, that same image may mean one thing to one person, but a different thing to a different person.
Right.
But so there's, principles and energies that go with it. But you got to look at some of those systems as symbolic, like metaphorical.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, and that's really cool to be able to see that. I have a friend that's now doing readings with me. We try to get together once in a while, and she does tarot. And she's been right on with some of the things with me.
That's good.
It's been awesome, and she's doing a great job.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, for anybody wanting to learn, I mean, practice is your best teacher. I mean, for years before I turned professional, I was just doing free readings for anybody who wanted them, just to see if I could do it, just to see
Right.
if it worked. And so I made my living doing other things, and so I would do free readings for anybody who wanted them, just for fun, just to see what would happen, just to see if they really did work. And then time after time, I got confirmation back from people who said, "Well, thanks. That really addressed what was on my mind." And they said, "How'd you do that?" I don't know. I don't know how I did it either. Because see, my first deck didn't come with an instruction book, and I didn't have a teacher, so all I knew was what I got by meditating on those pictures. And then also, I just say, "Thank you, spirit guides, for helping me do a good reading for this person."
Right.
So that was the only technique I had to learn by. And then just by practicing with people, that you'll learn things like what I mentioned to you earlier about the messages coming through,
Yeah.
and about not stopping that flow. But, I would say the art of reading consists of two things. One is knowing your tools, and the other is being able to connect with the person asking for the reading. And so the art of the reader is comprised of both of those things equally important.
Because you got to be able to connect with the other spirit,
Right.
your sitter spirit, in
Yeah.
order to get the message. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're really, that's a thing a person just has to learn to do, if you're going to be successful. It's just like if you're working in a busy space, you got to be able to focus your attention on the person who's sitting with you so that all the traffic and noise around you does not distract, and you can stay focused on the person who's sitting with you, even in a busy space. Because a lot of times you get in, I read for parties, I read at expos, I read at events, company parties, birthday parties, graduation parties, girls' night out, bachelorettes, weddings,
Weddings?
funerals.
I haven't heard of weddings for something like this, but
I have,
okay.
I've done, and they love them, but also got invited to read for a memorial service for somebody who died.
Oh, wow.
So,
Wow.
I mean, there's all kind of ways people want to use it these days, and all kind of environments,
And it's
and
getting sorry,
it's
it's
getting more
getting
well
known.
accepted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so they're more open for it and wanting to connect with their loved ones that just passed, or
Oh yeah.
hoping for the future of the bride and groom, or
Yeah.
even the.
Well, they love it. Well, see, I always do numerology when I do my tarot readings too, and so a lot of times that helps people make sense of it, because everybody, is interested in their own birthday,
Right.
and everybody has a birthday.
I think
Well,
they do.
yeah.
Just
Well,
kidding.
So, if you use that as a starting point, then if you know a person's birthday, you know their zodiac sign and their number for a starter. And then you combine that with what cards they're pulling, and it gives you more perspective. Because if you know something about the person's zodiac
Yeah.
sign and you know their life numbers, then there's present year energy numbers. There's a lot of ways you can work with the numbers. So I just do two
Right.
quick ones. But for example, names have numerical energy too, what we
Yes.
call ourselves. And just think how some people have a stage name or a pen name, because maybe they don't want to. It could be about privacy for some people, but for some people too, they're trying to project a certain aura, and so that's why they pick that name. And so sometimes people too, when you think about picking a name for a business or a baby,
Mm-hmm.
that you are creating an energy around that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for example, with your name energy, it could be different depending on what you're called. So, like in other words, if everybody knows you by a nickname, that's the number you got to use.
Yeah.
Or if you prefer to go by your middle name instead of your first name, then that's the number you got to use. And sometimes people change their name deliberately just because they don't like the name they were given. And so, again, you use the number of the name the person uses all the time. And then sometimes, too, you make a choice. Like, for example, there are 3 versions of my name. So there's Dan, Danny, and Daniel. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so legally, I'm Daniel on all the driver's license and voter's registration and birth certificate. It's all Daniel. But when I was growing up, they called me Danny, right? But now, as an adult, my entire working life, my business cards always say Dan because I feel like it's more friendly, more informal. But now some people will say you should use Daniel because it's more formal and has higher number. But at the same time, I like being more down to earth and friendly and open. So I go with Dan. So if a person was, just going by a principle and saying, well, I want the highest number, you go with Daniel. But if you just want to be friendly, you go with Dan. So, but they have different numerical energy.
I was going to say, I mean, depends on what the numbers come out to be. I mean, Daniel could actually turn out to be the number 2, and
Oh, it's actually the number of wisdom.
Yeah.
And
See, there you
and
go.
Danny is foundation, and Dan is more entrepreneurial.
See,
And here
there
I
you
have my
go.
own business.
See, and all 3 of them work together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They all do.
They all do. Yeah.
And I think
Excellent.
that's I like to give people information they can use. And so, like, I have a email newsletter I do for anybody who wants to get it. So, uh, all my clients, or some clients, some people don't want an email, but clients. But people can also just go to my website and sign themselves up for it, and all it'll ask for is name and email. But I always put in things you can try at home in my newsletter. So, like, even if you don't have an appointment and you don't feel like you need to see me right now, there's some kind of exercise that I'm putting at the newsletter you can try at home. And it would usually be something that won't cost you anything. It'll just take a little time and energy to try it. And if it involves things, it's probably things you already have around the house. So I always try and put in something that a person could try and use for themselves. And, then like an inspirational article. So those are, ways that I like to, help people. A lot of times too, persons may just ask me questions like, how do I connect with my spirit guides more effectively? Or, how can I make sense of these dreams? So a lot of times it's fun because the questions are always different,
Right.
but also I can show people how to do things like that so they can sometimes take care of themselves. So a lot of that, the more empowered you make people, the better for everybody.
And it's fun too because you can get the same question and a completely different answer.
Yeah.
Depending on the person.
Exactly.
So that's where the fun comes in, because it's the same thing all the time, but it's not the same thing all the time, which is really fun.
It is.
It's really fun to have that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll make sure we get that information in the notes below.
Okay.
With your newsletters and how to contact you and everything. We'll get that in below. And then so that
any person who finds my website gets signed up for the newsletter right on the website. With one hop,
Yeah, we'll get you there.
Yeah. But too, I think a lot of the I think what is I'm feeling called more to do these days is more of working with people who really want to do some work. So, like, in other words, teaching more, because as we go through life, sometimes even just, in every person, there's times when you're the teacher and times when you're the student. Mm-hmm. And so usually throughout our adult life, you're getting both at the same time. And so a lot of times, just showing people how they could do something new or different will add a lot of value to their life. They give them another tool to work with, another way to look at things. And so that becomes more fun. So like I've had families that have invited me to their home to teach them something like meditation or drumming or something like
Uh-huh.
that, just in a small group setting, just parents and children. But
Right.
I've also I think people come to me one on one because they want to learn how to do Reiki or how to do tarot or how to do dream work or whatever they want to
Mm-hmm.
learn. Um, and I love teaching that thing, but I'm not trying to organize big classes. I say everybody like one by one at a time, or sometimes two at a time, because I like to work in my office, which is where I am, and it just it's a comfortable working space for a teacher and two students, but you couldn't hold a big class in here.
Right.
And
Right.
and I like communicating with people on that real down to earth basis too, because when you have a small group, you got plenty of time to ask questions, plenty of time to practice, plenty of time to discuss things. So teaching is very thorough that way.
Right.
But
Right.
also, I'm noticing that with our younger people now, some of them are growing up knowing stuff we didn't learn till later.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know I had a real strict upbringing, so I didn't hear about anything metaphysical till like about my 30s. But
Yeah.
now I see some people are coming to me and they're in their 20s and they already know about some of these things. So I think they kind of got a head start.
Lucky them, huh?
Yeah. Well, they have ideas in mind that are, give you a view on life and can help steer you forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so this year, too, for the first time, I had an apprentice as somebody who came to me who wanted to learn everything and start her own business. And so I worked with her for a full year and I still in touch with her. And, you know, she learned basic techniques and also how to open her own business. And now she does have her own business up and running.
Excellent.
And some we still meet from time to time. And also sometimes when I have big events where I need two people, then I could maybe get her on it too.
There
Or
you go.
sometimes if there's two clients want to hire me the same day, well, then I'll refer one to her, you know. But it's really satisfying when somebody really wanted to work because you can tell always a good student when they come in and they have a lot of questions and
Mm-hmm.
they've been taking notes and they're always, want to try things. And so they're always open to learning, an additional technique or a different way of doing things. And I think that it's really satisfying for any teacher to have good students
Yeah. Yeah.
because that's what makes it really rewarding when they're really paying attention and doing their homework and they're coming up really wanting to do more and they're really absorbing it and also coming up with good ideas.
Right.
I
Right.
love that, and it's really well, see, sometimes too, like if a person's trying to learn more about themselves, you might not just do one past life regression session. Maybe you want to do several, depending on, what you're trying. When I first learned
Mm-hmm.
about this, I had like sessions with like 10 different people just because I wanted to learn about past lives. So I bought a session with everybody who said they were offering sessions. Back in those days, that was like everybody in town who was doing anything past life,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But that was part of that process of wanting to learn more, and it helped me answer questions about my own life, which is exactly why I wanted to explore that. I wanted to know why I was born with certain talents or certain
Mm-hmm.
difficulties, and the past life was the one method that gave me answers. So it didn't
Yeah.
change my life because I was already had my life changed by then, but it gave me at least one clear answer about why was I born the way I was born with the gifts I was born with.
Right.
And so finally there was an answer that never came from anywhere else. So you
Yeah.
see, I think certain things that would be beneficial for a person to do more than once or on a basis where you're making a plan to say if you want to learn as much as possible, maybe you want to do more than one of these sessions. And just like with Reiki, if you want to stay, healthy and happy and keeping your energy flowing well, maybe a monthly Reiki session is good, just like monthly massage is good,
Right. Right.
you know. So developing healthy habits. Because some of the things I will give people to do, just like some of the suggestions I've already made today, would be a thing that anybody could do, and you can make it a daily practice for yourself.
Right.
So you see, if you make it a daily practice,
Right.
you get in touch with your spirit guides or pull a card for the day or any of those kind of things, then you got something you can put into practice every day as a way of getting yourself, sort of spiritually attuned, looking at things from different perspectives, finding newer or better ways to look at things or work with things or work with people. So a lot of times too, aligning your energies might be what indicates for a person time to change my work. Because I
Right.
don't really feel like being in this business anymore. I'd rather be in a different business.
Right.
And so your feelings are guiding you in that way. Like, what would I love to do? And
Right.
if you want to make a career change, why not try and find a job doing something you'd love to do rather than just apply for posted openings and see what you get?
Right.
And I would definitely advocate that for any person. If there's something you really want to do, find a way to connect with somebody in that world instead of just filling out applications and blindly emailing everywhere.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that spot right now. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, think about people in
Yep.
real life that you can talk to.
Yep. I'm
You
keeping
see?
that in mind. I'm keeping that in mind. I really am. So
Because think about
yes.
this, you can get introduced to people too. Because let's just say there's somebody that you can think of who is doing excellent work, somebody that you look up to, somebody that you'd like to meet, and you could introduce yourself to such a person by just approaching it that way and say, I like what you've been doing. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions about it? So you see, who wouldn't like to be asked like that?
Yeah, definitely.
See, but that'd
Definitely.
be a way to meet like a new mentor, a
Mhm.
helpful friend, because sometimes if somebody really likes you, they open doors for you. Just there have been times, for example, in the past where I have just been talking to somebody and they offered me a job, and here I was not even applying for a posted opening, didn't even know there was an opening, but the person liked what I had to say and they decided to make me an offer. And I've known clients that have had that kind of thing too, where they were talking to somebody and then the person they were talking to decided that this person has some really good questions and ideas and maybe they should be working with us. And so sometimes that's how you might be able to get something good rather than the frustrating experience of just like, emailing your resume into a black hole out there. Try and meet some people in real life that you'd like to meet. Because just think, the people who love what they do every day always find a way to get better at it. People who are just clocking in don't. So if you love what you do, no matter what kind of business you're in, you're going to get better at it. And that's the kind of quality you want in your life. So, why don't you want to, take the step that would help you get work that you'd like to be involved with rather than just filling any posted opening?
Makes
So
all sense.
sometimes, seeking out personal contact like that rather than just looking on the web and applying for something. But, meeting people that you'd like to meet because they're good at what they do or they got some interesting stuff going on. Sometimes that's how a person gets a job offer.
Yeah, and I'm gonna work on that because I've got a person in mind, actually,
Hmm.
that I can work on that.
Uh-huh.
So
See? So you're just
start it
taking
up right
action
there.
in your own life. You're
Yeah.
creating magic in your own life. When you do
Yeah.
something like that, you're taking a more active role. You're being a catalyst to make something good happen.
Sounds
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Hmm. Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and end it at this point because this is a
All
good
right.
stopping point right here. And
Excellent.
I want to thank you so much for being on the show. I say this with all my guests, and it's so true for me because it's so awesome hearing everyone's stories,
Hmm.
where they've come from, where they're heading,
Hmm.
and I just want to thank you for what you have done for me
Hmm.
just in this short little time we've been together, because I have ideas now where I'm going to go for jobs, for not just a job, but a career. You
Excellent.
know,
Excellent. Well,
yeah,
I'm
it's,
happy. I'm happy it had that effect on you.
yeah. So now I've known this, but it's good confirmation and
Yeah.
good catalyst to get me moving.
You see what I
So,
mean? Sometimes what I'm giving you is confirmation rather than something you never thought of, but maybe you needed that nudge to go forward with the idea.
right. And
You
thank you.
see,
I appreciate that.
that's what's important.
You
Sometimes
did
somebody
it.
saying that's a good idea. You know?
That was perfect. I thank
Yeah.
you so much for being a guest on the show. Thank you so much for your ideas, and thank you for helping me along in my life
Well,
as
certainly.
where I'm
Well,
at.
thank you for
So,
inviting me. It was a pleasure.
oh, it's been a great time, and I love you guys. Love all my guests. Love all my audience. Love you all. Thank you so much.
Well,
We'll talk
sure.
to you later. All right.
All right. Have a good day.
You too. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.